Welcome to the Red Light Late Night Show with Kelli. It gets weird in here. Welcome to the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. I'm Kelli, and welcome to the show, Jeff Ignatowski.
Yeah, you even got it right on the first try.
Yeah, I thought I practiced beforehand, so I thought that was how I said it. You're the creator of Killers, the card game, and a few others that I saw on your Facebook page. But welcome, and let's hear a little bit about this card game. It's a little controversial, isn't it?
It's funny. I really thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
and it doesn't seem to have been. So which is really kind of nice because, when we first started out and conceived of the idea, we had talked a whole bunch about, people were going to be there at the conventions, like picketing our table and everything.
Yeah.
And that has not happened at all, thankfully.
That's great.
But, I was a little surprised, and I'm always kind of prepared for that. So I think like the one day that I relax a little bit and I think it's not going to happen, then it's really going to happen. And they're going to like arrest me and throw me in jail or something.
Oh my God. Well, that's not going to happen. But I am. So we are kind of running the same circles a little bit. I'm a true crime podcaster and you have this game called Serial Killers. But how did you get started? Were you interested in true crime and things like that? Like, how did this game come about?
So, yeah, all of my life, I've been interested in true crime. I kind of grew up in it. So it's kind of been a lifelong kind of passion of mine. I remember when I was really little, I was probably like, 9-10 years old. I used to go to the library and there was a book that I used to get out all the time. I'm trying to think. It was about, why can't I think of his name right now?
Was it Helter Skelter?
No. Which is funny because my dad met Manson in the early 60s.
Oh my gosh.
But I didn't read Helter Skelter until I was probably in my 20s.
Okay.
But there was a book called Lansky when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I used to get it out from the public library all the time. I probably read it at least 10 times.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And it's about Meyer Lansky, who was one of the founding kind of people. He's also not Italian. He's a Jewish guy that helped found the mafia.
Okay.
And so he worked with Lucky Luciano, was one of his compatriots, and really was the one that was kind of the brains behind making the 5 families. So all of that was kind of attributed to him. And so I read that book like religiously when I was a kid. But half of my family is Italian. They were all fronts for the mob in the early like 70s.
Wow.
So, I kind of grew up with all that. So true crime is kind of in my blood.
Literally in your blood. Yeah.
So I've always loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you go around to some of the conventions, like the true crime conventions and things like that, repping your game. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what are some of the shows you've been to? Who are some of the interesting people you've met? Things like that.
So it's really kind of been fascinating. I've been surprised at the types of people that come up to my booth because it's all kinds of people. And it's kind of neat that everybody has a story, because we're all really affected by these things that happen. They all touch us in different ways. And I think that is an important part of the story. So I've gotten to meet people that, that came in contact with Ted Bundy. I met a girl one time that her and her sister and her family were all at a restaurant. They were eating dinner and the mom and dad went to the bathroom. And the 2 sisters were sitting there and Ted came up to the table and tried to pick up the 14-year-old sister. And when she tried to pick her up, the parents came back, Ted left. And then years later, when they were watching the news, they saw this guy and they're like, holy shit, that was the guy.
Yeah.
And so the girl was like, if you guys weren't there, I would have completely went home with him.
Oh my gosh.
He was that charming. So it was just fascinating to meet some of those people that, were directly impacted by that. Just recently, I was at a show. I want to say it was in Indianapolis, maybe. But I was at a show and a guy came up and he dated one of Rodney Acala's victim's sister.
Oh my goodness.
And so he was dating her while they were doing the trial, while the trial was going on. So he went to the trial. He watched all the information that the police had released, all the photos, and he ended up becoming friends with Acala. And, Rodney.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Rodney had, sent him a book, signed it when he authored that one book. And he had actually gotten all of the artifacts from that crime. The sister gave him, I guess when Rodney kidnapped her, she worked with Rodney. And when she got kidnapped, he threw all of her belongings out the window.
Oh, okay.
And so all of those belongings, when the police recovered them and released them to the family, she gave all that to her boyfriend at the time.
Oh,
so
my
he
goodness.
Still has all of that. He has her like lipstick case and, different things that were in her purse. And then he also has a bunch of letters that they wrote back and forth while Rodney was in prison. And at the booth, it was so crazy. He was like, you really need to talk to her. So he calls her while we're at the booth, and they apparently still really have a close relationship.
Oh my God. Oh,
so I spent like 30 minutes on the phone with this victim's family. So,
wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. One of the things that, people initially, when I first released the game and, people really, of course, it's the culture that we live in. Yeah. Everybody is about, what about the victims? What about the victims?
Yes. Yep.
And, doing this, I've met several of them.
And how do they feel about it?
Most of them are very much like, we understand what you're doing and we understand this is about awareness. Yes, it's a game, but most of them want the story to be told.
Yeah.
One of the things that we don't do is that we don't really delve into the victims themselves. We stayed as far away from that as possible because the game is about the killers. It is about their history and their place in history. I think that we make a big mistake when we forget about that history and we try to turn a blind eye to the things that have happened in our past. Because they've happened and they continue to happen. There have been, there's a serial killer in New York right now that is killing homosexuals. So that's going on right now. There have been 2 that have just been captured in California, as recently as a month ago. There's now the Delphi murders. All of this stuff is recent. It is around us all the time. And if we turn a blind eye and we're not aware of the things going on around us, we run the risk of becoming victims ourselves.
Very true.
So a lot of what I have tried to do is I want people to be able to go into a safe space and dig into some of that psychology and understand, maybe not understand why the killers do what they do, but understand some of the thought processes that go into that, that help us stay protected from those types of things.
Yeah.
That was always my standpoint in creating the game. And in learning, I think learning needs to be fun. I think if you're bored to death, you don't do it.
That's true.
And you don't gain anything from that. So, yeah.
So, at True Crime Podcast Festival, I believe it was this last summer, some of my fellow true crime podcasters did play the game and they were talking a little bit about it. But for the folks at home who haven't seen it or heard of it, tell us like the premise, like how do we play Killers, the card game?
Okay, so that was a really fun night. I was up with Bob Mata.
Oh, yep.
And with who was it? True Crime.
There was some from our true crime podcast.
Yes.
Jennifer Metcalf, I believe, or Flanders, I believe. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, we were up till about 2:00 in the morning.
Yep.
And
unfortunately, I missed that night. But yeah, I heard all about it.
It's so funny because they found a card that I had screwed up, and I had put the wrong picture on the wrong person.
Oh no.
And so yeah, we have since rectified that. But
okay.
Only true crime podcast people would ever notice that.
Yep.
But yeah, I missed it. After selling hundreds of games.
Oh man.
That's the first time anybody said anything to me.
So the first ones are going to be worth more money because since then you've probably reprinted the cards or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's been actually the first set that we produced was handmade.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And John Borowski has set number 2.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I have set number 1 and he has set number 2 because I shipped him everything we had at the time.
That's
and
cool.
It was all made by hand because our printer would not do our killer cards.
Oh my gosh, really? Oh my goodness. Yeah. So okay. Things have changed since then, but yeah.
Yes, the way that the game is played.
Yes.
You get a stable of 5 killers. The goal is to get 10 kills or be the last killer standing.
Okay.
So you play as the killer in the game.
Okay.
And you go around abducting and killing your victims. You're avoiding the police because the police come around at the end of every turn to investigate any evidence that you left at the scene of the crime.
Okay.
And then there is a lot of interplay between players.
Okay.
There are cards there that you can use to interrupt other people's kills that, especially if you're playing with some of the expansions, you also get cards to really you can send the police after another killer. You can plant evidence on other killers.
Oh, so okay. That's cool.
And because of Bob and everybody else, that night I am currently working on a experts expansion kind of thing for the game.
Okay. I did see something about this on social media because I think you included some pictures of a few different podcasters on some of your social media posts and stuff. And he was one of them, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Something with doing criminal defense or something like that. Yeah. That's cool. Okay. So you're changing things up. You also have another like a spin-off, which is Killer Kids. Is that right?
So we have a couple different things.
Okay.
We have Speed Kills, which is more of a party game.
Okay.
Kind of like Exploding Kittens kind of feel.
Yeah.
But some of the feedback that we got from killers was that the game being an RPG and being a role-playing game is a little bit longer. If you're playing with like four or 5 people, it may take 2 hours to play a game.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we wanted to find a way to shorten the game.
Okay.
So people could, play it kind of quick. And we wanted to find a way that we could make it one player.
Okay.
So you can play Speed Kills 1 to 4 players. So you can play it solo.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Okay. Yeah.
So, and then we just came out with, it's not a game, but I'm wearing the shirt today.
Okay. Look at that. Is that a Gacy inspired, Pogo the Clown inspired t-shirt? Okay. Look at that.
For sure.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
So
got it.
Yeah. Serial Killer Kids is kind of like it's based on Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh my gosh. Those. Yes. I remember those. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
So me, did not really ever anticipate really releasing Serial Killer Kids to like the mass market publication.
Yeah.
It was really supposed to kind of be like a at the convention table kind of underground thing.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize is that our true crime community, and because I know so many people in it now, that it would become a really big thing right off the bat. And some of the people that have done some of the artwork, my buddy Jason Stoffer did the majority of the artwork.
Okay.
And then he got a bunch of people that do a lot of true crime art in the mix. So there's like 8 other people that offered their services.
Okay.
But Nico Klaus is one of them. He did a David Parker Ray card.
Oh,
And
wow. Cool.
so we
Okay.
have that. And he just promoted that on his social media, which was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Louis Rasconi did a card. He does a lot of serial killer and other political artwork and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got to work with a lot of really cool people
Yeah.
and really, promote some of the things that they're doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was a cool project. We have more in store. It's only been released like less than a month now.
Oh,
So
gotcha. Okay. Just in time for Christmas. So
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, there are tons of people who are into true crime. There are people who are interested in serial killer stories and things like that. So these are great gifts for those people in your life. Where can they get all of these games that you have created?
So if you go to Linktree
Hmm.
/killers
Okay.
TCG,
Okay.
that'll get you to everything that we have. The growing compendium, like for example, Killers the card game has over 400 cards, 300 of those being killers.
Okay.
So we've got 4 expansions. We've got oh shit. We've got organized crime. We've got
Oh,
World of
cool.
Serial Killers.
Okay.
We've got a Lady Killers expansion, which is 70 female killers. And then we have a cults expansion.
Okay.
Currently, I've got 4 more expansions planned for next year. We've got mass murderers, which we push back
Mhm.
mainly because of a lot of stigma.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how to work the mechanics in that
Hmm.
because I want it to play like you get your stable of 5 killers, right? But your
Hmm.
goal is to get rid of them as fast as possible.
Okay.
So you'll
Gotcha.
gain points by getting rid of your own killers by either throwing them in jail or killing them. Uh,
Okay.
so
Kill the
we're
killer.
we're gonna figure out because I mean the mass murderers collection comprises uh, political figures as well as school shooters, mass murderers, bombers. So it is the
That's
worst of the worst
the
if you can
worst of the
get
worst.
worst.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's intense.
Yeah. So
Okay. So Linktree will put your link in the notes. So yeah, just in time for Christmas, get those killers in the serial killer stocking.
it's unbelievable
Yeah.
how many people are interested in true crime. Like
Oh
when I
yeah.
when I started this, I thought like, okay, this is a good market to get into. But at the same time, I was like, with as wild as we are, and my brain, I'm like, I might sell 1 or 2 of these. And now
Mhm.
we're like a year and a half in. I've sold over 1,000 units
My
in 8
gosh.
different countries.
Wow.
And the feedback that I get is incredible. Like,
That's great.
uh, I was in Galaxy Con, which is a comic convention, which
Hmm.
is odd. You wouldn't think that that would be one of my biggest ones, but it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And so I went there and I had people buy the game on Saturday, go up to their room and play it,
Mm.
come down the next day and buy several expansions from me.
Wow.
So,
They loved it.
yeah, you don't get any better promotion than that.
That's
That people,
true.
my friends at Murder Metal Mayhem,
Yeah.
they did a gameplay. They did a podcast on that, and the next day they called me and bought an expansion.
Oh
So
my
it's like
goodness. Yeah.
obviously
They
everybody
liked
seems to
it.
like it.
Yeah. Great feedback. Yeah. Okay. But thank you so much. And yeah, that's crazy. We know a lot of the same people. So
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll run into you one of these days at a convention or something like that.
I know. I've been waiting for it. Everybody keeps inviting me to come down to Crime Con down in Orlando,
Yeah.
and I'm torn because I'm not going to be able to vend there. The
I
booths
was
are
going
too
to say,
expensive.
well, that, but also I think you might get some bad, some people not happy. You know what I
Oh, I'm
mean?
sure.
At
I'm sure.
CrimeCon, I think. I don't know. I don't
So
know.
you know what's funny about that? Because I speak on serial killer psychology.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I do seminar, well, not seminars, but sessions, like at a lot of the different conventions that I go to.
Yeah.
When I was at Scarefest this year, I
Yeah.
had the largest speaking segment of anybody.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
I beat out all the celebrities.
Oh my goodness. That's cool. That's
But
super cool.
again, it is the subject matter, right? So I'm also good friends with Steve Gianangelo.
Okay.
And, he's awesome guy, wrote the book on the psychology of the serial murderer. So I always carry his book with me. And I'm like, listen, this is 90% of where I get my information from. If you want to know, like, get his shit, because it's great.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love
so
that.
I think next year I'm working on doing because a lot of these conventions I'm going to be going back for a second time, and I don't want to do the same talk, So I think this next year, what I want to do is I want to get video segments of some of the interviews that were done with like Dahmer or maybe Gacy or Kemper, and play some of those video segments for people, and then dissect them live there and talk about like the psychology behind, what they're doing or what they're saying and why they're saying it, and dig into that a little bit. I think that'll be really interesting.
Totally. Yeah.
And, it's funny. I was talking to Judith Yates the other day, and we were on the phone together, and she was asking me, she was like, Jeff, so like, what is your background? And I was like, fucking zero.
Oh,
that's my background. Like I grew up in the middle of all this. And my personal question has always been to figure out more about myself. So like I struggled with the McDonald triad, growing up with all that and believing that, that was the indicator for a killer. So growing up with all that and having all these intrusive thoughts, I always wanted to understand, why didn't I go that route? Why didn't I go and commit those kind of crimes?
Right. That's a good question to ask. I mean,
So unlike a lot of other people that are very educated and understand these things, I did work in child psychology, so I do have some psychology background, but by and large, it is my own personal experience and my own personal understanding of why killers think the way that they do that really kind of fuels everything I talk about. So anyway.
Got it. Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Thank God you didn't end up being a killer. I'm very glad about that. But you know what? It's just a very subtle little thing that can turn someone from one to the other. So
yeah. I think there are so many factors that go into that. Obviously, childhood trauma, and some of it is biological. And so going through life, I fought professionally for a long time. And so head trauma, got that. So I went through all of that. I had the childhood trauma, and, but what is that trigger? Because the older I get, the more and more I realize that everyone is capable of murder, right? Given the right circumstances, the right influences, we would all commit that. Like if, somebody was attacking our children.
Exactly.
You do what you have to do.
Yep.
Does that make you a serial killer? No. That's a whole different classification. So it's, what is it that could cause that for a person? And I think that's a fascinating question.
It is truly fascinating. You have a really unique perspective on it too. Well, Jeff Ignatowski, creator of Killers, the Game, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. It's nice to finally talk to you. I've been waiting. I've been listening to all of the things for months now.
Yeah. It's great to meet you virtually, but so thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.